Wonderful. To start off the panel, my panel is all about the future. Is it safe or is it scary? I like this topic just because you can kind of play around with lots of ideas, and we don't have to be too serious here. We can talk about things in the extreme, you know? But before we get started, I'm going to hand over to my panel and get them to introduce themselves to our amazing audience.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Eliza-May Austin. I'm the CEO of th4ts3cur1ty.company and the founder and director of Ladies of London Hacking Society, which you should all totally join if you're interested in cyber security. That's me.
Oh, you need
Took
both.
two.
Sorry.
22.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Payam. I'm an academic. I work on AI and machine learning for the past few years. Most of my work has been on using IoT and smart technologies for cancer care and dementia care. We design a lot of smart technologies to look after people with dementia and their carers. And I work in an institute called UK Dementia Research Institute, and we have a center there called Care Research and Technology Center, which is funded by Medical Research Council and Alzheimer's UK and Alzheimer's Society. Oh.
Hi, my name is Laura Robertson. I run digital automation projects. So originally I have a master's in French and German. I actually moved into technology after the credit crisis, and I've been running automation programs since 2015 now. I have done it in the public sector for a large consultancy. In one of my roles, I was rolling it out at an investment bank, and more recently, I've even done it in the vet sector. So I've done it in lots of different environments, really to help people's lives, make people's lives easier through the manual copy-paste of our day-to-day through automation.
Hello, my name's Jamel Harris. Some people know me as Jay. Either is totally fine. I'm a penetration tester, so ethical hacker, and I started a company, Digital Interruption, 3 years ago about that. Because has anyone ever worked with pen testers before?
Yep.
Yeah, we really suck. It's our job mostly just to tell people that they're wrong, that they've spent the last X number of years developing products or whatever, and then we go in and we just say everything's broken. So I wanted to start a company where we do things a little bit different, and we try and help companies become secure from the start. So by developing tooling for them, methodologies, really push this idea of DevSecOps. But my background is mostly penetration testing. And that is a lot of what we do as a company. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So my first question to the panel is, it's kind of a twofold question. First of all, what are your hopes for the future? But secondly, what are your fears in terms of the technology that is going to be implemented within smart cities? So, Jamel, as you have the...
Sure. So yeah, big question here. Has anyone ever read the book Demon or Freedom TM by Daniel Suarez? It's a fiction book. It's really cool. He sets out this scenario where everything is connected, right? People are wearing like augmented reality headsets. I can look at someone, see their name. I can see their credit score. I can open up doors using like magic powers. Really, everything's connected, so it's all like over the internet. I think that sounds really cool. Like I love the idea of being able to look at someone and know their name. That's something that I really struggle with. I'm so bad with that. But being able to do that, it'd be life changing. And I've got like some really stories about how I've got people's names wrong sometimes. It's very embarrassing. But like that kind of idea, but everything being connected would be amazing, and I would love a future where that could happen. However, that's also the scary thing, right? If everything is connected, that means companies are collecting all this data about us, and they have the ability to manipulate us. And we've seen that happen already. There's obviously big news about elections at the moment. Everything's been happening over the last couple of years because these companies have all this data. So on the one hand, I think the coolest thing is that companies can do this stuff if we let them have access to that information about us. But there is obviously a massive downside to that. And yeah, I'm not really sure what the answer is there or anything, but yeah, both of those things I think can be really cool and really scary.
So I get really, really excited, obviously, by automation and the potential of it, and how I am looking towards a future where we're working hand in hand with humans and machines, helping make our lives easier. And I constantly trawl the web for innovative speeches on this, and I recently came across David Lee, who's head of innovation at UPS, and he, in his July 2017 TEDx, talked about why jobs of the future won't feel like work. And he made a very innovative invite to our future world, where he said, when you invite people to be more, they can amaze us with how much more they can be. And that's actually been my experience of automation programs. You allow people to really develop their skills and really see the positive power of technology. And that's really what excites me and gets me up every day. On the scary side, I really worry that in a decade, I'm potentially still one of the few technology leads in senior positions, and that there aren't that pipeline of girls and women coming through. That really, really scares me. I do a lot of work. I go into schools and talk to girls that may be interested in a career in technology but don't actually know it yet, and help them understand that, as Susan was saying at the start, it's not all about pure tech. It's not about boys sitting in a room coding together. You can actually have a very rewarding and diverse career. And I also get a bit scared by the way that Cortana and Siri have been developed with algorithm biases, where you can actually ask them quite provocative questions and actually get quite a flirtatious answer back. And I'm absolutely convinced if you had girls and women in the room helping them and guiding those discussions, that you'd get more straightforward answers, such as, don't ask me a question like that, or please change the tone of that question.
Or take it literally.
Yeah, that's why we planted Holly on Cortana. She's going to fix it all.
Good. So that kind of future really, really scares me.
Thanks, Laura.
Well, obviously I'm a bit biased. I'm obsessed with dementia and dementia care. And when I think about it, my hope is, to give you a picture, in the UK there are around 850,000 people affected by dementia. At any given time, 1 in 4 hospital beds are occupied by someone with dementia. But within the next 10 years, we will have over 1 million people in the UK with this. And there is a lot of disparity across this country how people receive care. Pretty much when people get diagnosed, they are sent home, and pretty much tough luck. I mean, depends where you live, depends how you receive the care. My hope is the way we develop technologies, we can create systems which in a much smarter way, in a much better way, allow us to optimize and use the resources we have. I don't think we should replace human interactions in any of these areas, but I think we can put machines at work to help us to basically to help us to make better decisions, to help us people who are expert to be able to find risks, to be able to intervene early. My fear, in fact, I was sitting here and I was looking at your camera to give you a background. I was born and grew up in Iran, and every time I have to travel to US, I have to apply for a visa. And I was thinking, what should I say if the next time when I apply for my visa, because this is going to be on YouTube, if the US immigration looked at the video, they will decide whether I should get a visa or not. And my fear is we lose control, because as soon as we collect data, pretty much I work in this area, I think we have the GDPR, I'm in control, but I'm not really in control. You're recording me and I'll be there for the rest of my life. And whatever I say here is going to be recorded. And pretty much in many other areas, we do the same thing. And we say people are in control. In the area I work, actually people are very vulnerable. What I do, I go and put technologies in vulnerable people's home. Practically, I make them more vulnerable. If that technology is not used properly, is not designed properly, it's going to create lots of problems. And it's not just simply saying, oh, we give control to users. Not everyone is a computer scientist. Even computer scientists struggle. And obviously there are many other dimensions who might take that information. Probably you have read about, I won't say which country, the visa system which was using some sort of an AI deciding who should get visa. being from Iran, you're always obsessed with visa and things. I'm a British citizen, but this AI system was deciding who should get actually UK visa, let's say, was not explaining how it makes decision, and it turned out was sort of a semi-random system apparently. And if you do the same thing the way we offer care, like if someone like me comes and say, oh, I've designed a system for dementia care, now people are going to get better care, and if the system trusts that what I've developed, then we are in a very dangerous territory if that's not regulated and controlled.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I've got, I don't know why I'm bracing myself in my seat, like, that's too hot. It's going to get nasty, no, I'm joking. So there's a few things, and I'll just try and be as quick as I can. So what I am really excited about is how we are going to be putting data onto DNA strands. I don't understand how it works. If anyone here knows, tell me about it. That's going to be fucking amazing. So essentially, you think of like the biggest amount of data you can imagine, which is like in our brains and in our body, right? If you could encode actual information that's not native to us onto that, how phenomenal would that be? No one else would be able to see it. You'd have to plug in our choppers open to get it. It's really bizarre, but you did say just go full extreme, right? Do it. There you go. But that is something that we've proved is feasible, but it's too costly and too time consuming to do. That's super exciting. Could be dangerous, but hey ho, I might be dead by then, so okay. I don't run kids, so it's fine. And something that really scares me is, you know, sex robot industry. I mean, I personally don't know anyone that has admitted to having a sex robot at home, but they're only about $9,500. There's so many people in here that's like, I'm going to go remortgage my car. That's even a thing. So a sex robot, the sex robot industry is £30 billion right now. 30 billion. So if you think of the impact on women and girls, what that's going to have, and we're all here, well, I'm here because we want to make an impactful statement, and we want women in the industry, and we want to make it more viable for girls to come into, and then we're inadvertently endorsing sex robots. And the argument to have them, this is brilliant, the actual argument is, yeah, but if we give paedophiles little sex robots, they won't go around raping kids. So that's no joke, that's the argument. So the fact that that's something that is not only being thought of, it's something that's being built is terrifying. Wow, right, sorry. You did say like go for it.
Like I actually, I'm feeling really emotional right now. No, but seriously,
Yeah,
100%. And I have my own like thoughts on what I'm excited and scared about, and they kind of along the lines of a few of these things. I mean, I'm really excited about the possibility of unsiloed data and what that potentially means for us. So let's say we have our healthcare records unsiloed, plus like all the medical research unsiloed, and we're able to gain access to all of these in one place at one time to enable us to get the best healthcare, to get your best rates on our loans, to get best access to platforms, to get best access to telemedicine. That's amazing. But if we have everything unsiloed, what is potentially visible to central organizations? We're already seeing quite a few trends that are quite scary. Again, I'm not going to mention the countries that this app exists in, but there is an app that detects if you are within a certain proximity of somebody who is indebted to the government, and if you report that person for doing spending, that it, you said it, not me. If you actually are rewarded or incentivized for reporting that person to the government. So we are seeing these issues. So if you guys are giving away your data without thinking, maybe think again, maybe look at some of the stuff. I mean, there is potentially ways of solving this, but we do all need to work together. So that's sort of that. I suppose the next thing I'm kind of quite interested in is this whole idea of what should we be worried about like right now? Because I know we've got a couple of security experts here related to practical examples, just for like the audience, of what should we be thinking about today to protect our data?
Like everyday people.
Like everyday people. Like what should we start thinking about like right now?
MFA. So everyone, if you've not got two-factor authentication on everything that's important to you, sort that out. Would you agree, Jamal?
Definitely.
Sorry, what is that?
Two-factor authentication. So you know how you can log into an app and you'll have your username and your password,
Yeah.
and then you might have a thumbprint, or a backup email, or and a phone number, or and an app like the Google app that will generate a little code, and yeah. So that's 2FA. So if you you're just making life harder for anyone that's trying to get to your information, essentially.
Yeah, so I fully agree with that. I would just say if I'm doing a penetration test and I'm trying to hack into someone's account, the first thing I'll do is I'll look up if their password has been in a data breach. And if it has, I will try that password against their accounts. So having strong passwords and two-factor authentication helps protect against that. The other thing I would say though is more in terms of privacy, being aware of where your data is going, I think is really important. I think security, we have a habit of saying, don't use this service, don't use that service, data. I think it's okay if you're aware of what you're exchanging for the service. You know, some technology is really cool, and sometimes we want to be able to do cool stuff with it. But it means that providers will have access to certain information. We want to use the internet. Okay, they're going to see what websites we go to. It's just that's how the internet works at the moment. For me, that's a choice that I want to make. I'm okay in a way with giving certain amounts of information up for specific services, but others I don't. So I don't use Facebook, for example. And then I guess the third thing then is that on the same kind of topic of being aware, we give out information. Sometimes it's the inferences that's the more important thing. I don't know if people saw a few years ago when, who was the actor? Some actor put a flag up somewhere and took a picture of it, and then some of the people that were on 4chan, they wanted to take that flag down. So they saw the picture. Well, it was a video feed actually, and they saw the video feed and said, okay, well, we know that that there's sun at this time on the feed, therefore it's in this part of the world, and we can look at the birds that are flying in the sky. Therefore, we know it's likely to be by the coast. We also look at the clouds and star constellations. And by doing all these things, they managed to find out exactly where that flag was, and they stole it. So again, this isn't information that was knowingly put up. It was the inferences. Another example is I have a friend that says, oh, just join Facebook, but use a fake name. Okay, well, that's not that helpful. And also, if I then connect to my friend, and you know which primary school my friend went to, then you probably know that we might have went to the same primary school because nothing else connects us. We don't live in the same place, etc. So it's all these kind of inferences that it's become very easy for AI to start to bring that together. If I can just say one more thing then, just again on this, because this is super creepy. A friend of mine actually started to create a database of all the information about people that he could find publicly online. So bringing it all together, and he took information from things that I wouldn't even think about. And by connecting those dots, he managed to find information about people that definitely didn't want to be found. He managed to find secret military bases, for example, by looking at where people were running around weird areas in the middle of the desert. Okay, there's probably some kind of secret building there, and all kinds of stuff. And again, it's just because he managed to link all these bits of information together.
Yeah. Can I ask a question on that? So if you go into Google Maps and you're looking for territories and locations and routes, you can pick that up. Yeah,
so I think he actually got this information from this running app, but he could also tell where people lived, because they would maybe on the weekend run around one area, and then during the weekday run around another area. So that's not information that these people are necessarily knowingly putting online. But if you look at that, understand, okay, weekend, time of day, they're probably going to be at home, not at work, things like that, then you can start to kind of draw these maps or put this data together. And when you have more information and more data about more people, you can make all kinds of connections.
Yeah, and I was just going to support that statement, to be honest. Back in the Bitcoin boom, there was actually quite a lot of stuff going on with a lot of people that were talking about how much Bitcoin they had and how wonderful it was. But also then forgetting to turn off their locations, for example, on Twitter. And a lot of people ended up in a lot of serious situations with people that wanted those hard wallets that had their Bitcoin on them. So just be aware. So now we move into something a little bit more positive. So I'm going to talk about the future of work a little bit in terms of, okay, so we've got all these smart cities, things are automated, we've got loads of AI, figuring out what we should be doing, everything works. So what happens to those jobs? Are we going to have the same jobs? Are we going to have different jobs? How do you kind of, the key question is, what do you think is important for us to upskill ourselves in today, do you think? So we are ready for the future.
I feel like I've been talking way too much.
But when I think about AI and how the future will look like, obviously I work in the AI business, but there's a lot of also snake oil of how AI is going to change the world. I mean, lots of it we have to see how actually in practice it's going to happen. But when I think about if, yes, AI will change, or generally the technologies will change the way we live, the way we work, and it's changing all the time. But when I look at it, let's take agriculture as an example. The way the agriculture works now is very different from a decade ago, from 100 years ago. And obviously that has not taken human out of the loop, has made us more productive, has made us more efficient. And obviously people who did that, now they can, I don't know, produce more food, or they can cultivate in a much better, more efficient way. But obviously you still need a human resource to run that. In some areas, probably AI will completely replace human. I agree with that. Some jobs will change, as in, like a century ago, we had different types of jobs, they don't exist, and we have lots of new jobs which we never thought of going to exist even a decade ago. But I think in many ways, still a human in the loop should always be, or in many cases, should be part of it. Like on top of the work I do in healthcare, I never think for a minute, like we will have an AI which will run a surgery, or will make a decision, will make a complete diagnosis. Will help people to make better decisions, but won't replace. Now, if you have such a system, the doctor's role, the people provide the care, the type of job they do, the way they provide their services will change, and obviously we need to adapt. And I also don't think everyone should become a computer scientist or become a data expert or security expert because the world is going to, the economy, our economy, everything. What about lower skilled jobs? I think the way we look at the technology, we should look at the way to make us to live better, be better connected, but not really replace us as humans.
So I think in the future we're going to need technologies advancing at such an exponential rate now. Those soft skills coupled with the hard skills will be absolutely paramount. We will have to become more and more developed in how we empathise with people, how we also coach and mentor people in this new technology. And what I've found throughout my practice is I started off teaching myself everything I could about automation, teaching myself in my spare time, but I've realised over the years it's actually the ability to coach and mentor others and incite passion in them that's key to be able to get things off the ground. For example, in my last role, I was setting up an automation practice from scratch. I was putting together thought leadership, the governance model, but that wasn't as rewarding as watching people go from scratching their head saying, oh, what is this automation anyway? And everybody's going to lose their jobs, the robots are coming, to actually then presenting to the senior leadership team the proof of concept and what value it had added to their day-to-day. And that's really going to be key in the future. And cognizant also, Forbes wrote a lot about this. They wrote a report about 10 years ago about 20 jobs that were for the dustbin between 2010 and 2020. 3 of these jobs were data entry keyers, postal dispatchers, and general dispatchers. So that's partly why I quoted David Lee, because he's head of innovation at UPS, and companies like that are seeing their business models disrupted through technology, through Amazon, through drone delivery and things like that. But actually things are still changing very, very slowly. And then you can look at reports. Cognizant have written a lot about the future world of work and what hard and soft skills we'll need. And they look at things in a lot more of an imaginative way. for example, three of the key roles they've written about is head of computer-centred design, and this is somebody that has potentially a bit of a social science background, maybe a psychology background, a bit of marketing skills, and these are skills where you will look at imbuing that conversational AI with kind of a bit of a personality. You'll be looking at the customer queries coming in, and you'll be giving that code or those algorithms a bit more personality so that the customer and the technology can have more meaningful conversations. Another role is a head of a machine risk officer, and this is somebody that potentially has some RPA skills, and they will look at what happens when we turn the humans off. How do we then record what will happen if the machines fall over? What if there's errant code? And that's another role where you'll need those RPA skills. You need to think about the objectives and the risk inherent in a particular process. And then there's other things, obviously like algorithm bias auditor roles, where you'll have an AI bent, but you'll also be doing things like setting policy, looking at guidelines for building non-biased AI. So they're the kind of things that I think in the future, if we add a bit of imagination to the kind of threat that the media poses.
Can I just,
Yeah.
that was really interesting. Can I just ask you a question? How does one human audit another human's biases? That's impossible, isn't it?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I've not thought that far. I don't have the answer.
I think that would definitely is there in the future. And I'm just very conscious that with regards to the audience, I'm really keen for you guys to, put your hands up and ask some questions to our panelists here. They have so much knowledge, and you only have this opportunity and the pub afterwards to ask them some questions. So please raise your hands, and I'll hand the mic to Susan.
Hi. I recently heard about a theory of fully automated luxury communism. And I was wondering if any of you have heard of this, and if you had any opinions on it. It's quite like I'm very rudimentary understanding of it, but my understanding is that obviously the issues that communism has faced is that if we're all earning the same wage, we don't have a motivation to work harder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was that by automation, we can take out that sort of personal drive because machines don't have that. And if we work in a fully automated society, we could live a life completely luxuriously without having to work based on automation. I just wonder if anyone had any thoughts if that's even feasible or if it's just a pipe dream.
I have so many thoughts.
You would absolutely,
It's really interesting, but you would absolutely stifle creativity, you would absolutely stifle ingenuity. There would be no existence of humans just being humans. This would be like trying to turn us into machines. So in a really bizarre way. So I kind of think I know what you mean. There's like these groups that have popped up where they all go and they earn the money that they earn, and then they all put it in the same pot, and then everyone takes from it, and they all like Barry takes out the bins, and then Katie sews the fucking rug or something, and then everyone's happy and everyone shares the same amount of money, and everyone breastfeeds each other's kids, and it's really hippie and it's really gorgeous and whatever. So, but where's the entrepreneurship? I thought that was empty. I'm disappointed that I wasted it. Where's the entrepreneurship in that? And I think going back to the previous question that you just asked, the key thing to learn if you want to stay up to date with entrepreneurship is to learn how to roll with the punches, is to learn how to get knocked off your feet and get back up again and keep going, because that's what the industry does. That's what technology does, and as humans we have to be able to do that. You can't do that in a society where everyone has the same. No one has the ability to strive and see something more for themselves.
Yeah, I have a bit of a different view to that, because if you consider visionaries, there's a man called David Hulme that does a lot about this, and he talks about in the future where we'll have AI and machines doing a lot of the work for us. Actually, it's then that we can potentially all retire to the beach, but also we can look at how we really start adding value back to society. Companies will no longer be this is all obviously very visionary stuff, but he talks about the positives. Companies will no longer be competing on purely making profit. You'll be looking at adding value back to society. And he talks about products that are made for purpose rather than products that are made for profit. So it's all visionary stuff. I can see you giggling, but if you put a positive slant on it, that's a potential decades and decades away world of the future.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I add something to that?
I'm
Okay.
just conscious that I want to
Okay,
get
okay, no worries.
audience
No,
members.
that's not what. No, it's,
It's okay.
I can. That's fine. It's fine. Ask
I
more
need
questions.
the mic.
Sorry.
This is fascinating. We could like sit here for hours.
Hi. First, I'd just like to say I think one way for humans to audit other human beings' biases by improving diversity in tech and engineering.
Woo! Let's do that.
Otherwise, you keep having autonomous vehicles that have a higher chance of running over black people than white and Caucasian and Asians, because most engineers are Caucasians and Asians. Which is actually something that actually happened last year. A paper came out exposing that. But the question I wanted to ask was, with IoT, 5G, and AI increasingly becoming common, companies are using public data to improve their algorithms and making money out of the improved algorithms. Do you think the general public or individuals have the right to own part of that improved algorithm and benefit from it? And if not, if you don't think so, then where do we draw the line? Because some of the data they're collecting from the public are actually quite private, and they're related to like individual human behaviours.
So I actually have some personal thoughts on this because I'm very interested in the monetization of personal data, personally, because I feel like this is a new revenue stream that we could all add to our boat if we wanted to. I think the issue is that as individuals, our data isn't really worth much as raw data, but if we group together and then are able to somehow come together and sell the value of our data, then we should be able to monetize that. And there are quite a few projects, I think, going on in the blockchain space that are looking at this. For example, nothing that seems to be out there just yet. But I truly believe if we are adding value with our data, we should be able to monetize it. But at the same time, if we don't want to offer our data to free services, should they be free?
I think a historical and a very sort of successful in their own way example of that is Google. If you look at Google uses all the publicly available web data and creates a search, and they make billions of money. They are one of the most successful tech companies. And as far as I remember, European Commission has been trying to tax Google because Google collects European citizens' data, and they always believe, oh, if you provide search results. It's very, very difficult practically to do something like that, as Natalie said, a bit because our individual data doesn't really create, when you add up, you aggregate these masses of data, then you create value. Then individuals, if they hold on their data, it will be very, very difficult for them. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm saying going after these companies and asking them is often very difficult. And often they put something to that data to be fair in their favor. Also, they do process, they do analyze. Like the way Google searched that data completely changed the way we actually access information. To be fair, they have a value-added process to that data, even data comes free. Then in reality, yes, I would like that to happen, but in reality it would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, also you have studies that are going on into this. There is the possibility to have a personal AI now. And if we think about it, as you said, the fact is we can be communicating with up to 700 organisations in our lives. And we trade off convenience with our personal data to be able to get points on apps or freeze of access. And actually we should be really thinking about how we control and monitor our own data. And there are studies going on to develop a personal AI that will store all of your data. You'll be able to maintain and control this yourself. And there's the prediction that these personal AIs will then be able to communicate with organisational AIs in the future. And that's something really that's really fascinating going on at the moment with how we can take back that control of our data.
Yeah. I think we have time for one more question.
Who has a question? Susan, are you?
We have one
Lady in front.
Susan is not here.
Wow. Good question.
My name's Anita, and I was just going to ask, a lot of your feedback on the future of technology has been very optimistic. However, it's clear that these technologies are not going to be free, and in that respect, how then do we eliminate the divide, or how can we reduce this divide between just our society from having these differences because of these new technologies? Because it's all well and good us discussing how great they're going to be and how they're going to improve us, but what access are we going? Is everybody going to have? Is that going to be the same? Is there going to be differences? What do you think businesses could do to reduce that risk of economic divide?
So one thing hello, is this on?
That's an awesome question.
Yeah.
I'll give you the slide.
I think maybe it's on here. One thing that I've seen happening is lots of small companies starting up, and I think that's really the kind of key here. We get I'm seeing, especially in the security space, so many small companies. Whereas in the past we had a handful of giant pen test companies that gave the same kind of penetration test or did the exact same thing. Now we're getting so many security companies doing so many new things, changing the way that technology is working. And for me anyway, that's where I see where things are going to be different. We're going to see more diversity, and I think technology is going to help that happen as well. Once we can start to make it easier for people to start their own companies, maybe because of automation, maybe people can quit their current jobs because it's been automated. They can start to focus on the things that really are important to them, and then it's not about these big monolithic companies controlling our data, telling us how we need to use technology, but we get to create it as we want. I guess in an ideal world anyway.
I think we're just going to have one more response from the panel.
Okay, from what I got, my interpretation of your question was, is all of this stuff we're talking about going to be accessible to rich people and only rich people? And we're in a very very divided society in terms of economics, and is that going to grow? I think that you're right to ask that question. I think it is. I think that right now, Amazon now is amazing. I can order a bottle of wine at 3 in the morning and it turns up an hour and a half later and I'm like, oh, I'm in. But if you're in a poor neighbourhood, or if you don't have the money to do that, you can't. And that's just going to exacerbate, especially in a society like ours, which I'm really proud of and I love, but there is a huge class divide in our society. And that, in my opinion, is only going to grow, and it's going to grow even further when we do replace more and more people, like we already are, with automation and with bots and with those fucking tills that don't scan. We are going to put more and more people at work, so there's two massive contributors there to a massive divide in economic status, and I think that you're right to ask that question. It's a really good question.
Yeah, I agree. Amazing question. And I think the most important thing is that we have diverse people from diverse backgrounds with diverse mindsets on those boards. Yeah. Creating those companies, helping make those decisions so we don't end up in that world. So I'm going to end it there, and I think it's been an absolutely amazing 2 panels, and we have 15 minutes to get all of our stuff together and head to the pub so we can continue this conversation. Thank you.